Roll call, please.
Mayor Barton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gore. Here. Counselor Joyner.
Here.
Counselor Harris.
Here.
Counselor Denton.
Here.
Counselor Pelham.
Here.
Counselor Holloway. You have a quorum.
Okay. At this time, do we have a motion to go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 to discuss and consider personnel matters, including board and commission appointments, the assignment and performance of specific appointees and employees of City Council, and Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A30, discussion of an award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews of bidders or offerers, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, and to the extent such discussion will be aided thereby.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Counselor Holloway and seconded by Counselor Joyner. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Holloway.
Yes.
Counselor Joyner.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Barton.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gore.
Yes.
Counselor Denton.
Yes.
Counselor Pelham.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. Do I have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Counselor Holloway. Counselor Joyner.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Barton.
Yes.
Counselor Denton.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Certification, please.
Certification pursuant to 2.2-3712D, where only public business matters, 1, lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and 2, identified in the closed meeting motion, discussed in closed meeting. Counselor Joyner.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Barton.
Yes.
Counselor Denton.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right. We're going to go ahead and call the regular meeting to order. All right. Roll call, please.
Mayor Barton.
Yeah, here.
Vice Mayor Gore. Vice Mayor Gore is still in the back.
That's all right. Just keep on going with the roll call.
Counselor Joyner.
Here.
Counselor Harris.
Here.
Counselor Denton.
Here.
Counselor Pelham.
Partially here.
Counselor Holloway. You have a quorum.
Okay. At this time, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance by myself, followed by prayer by Pastor Collier. All right. Please rise. Sorry, invocation first.
If it'd be okay, I'd just like to address the council briefly before I pray. Most of you know I pastored a church for 17 years and have been privileged to lead the City of Refuge for the last 8. And I just want to express my sincere gratitude to this council for allowing us to and partnering with us to help those that are dealing with crisis. We've seen great success, and it's because of the partnerships with you folks and helping us give people an opportunity to overcome addiction. So I just want to express for those that are involved in the program and for all those in the city, thank you so much for your support. Now let's bow our heads. Our Father in heaven, we come before you today and we reverence your name, giving thanks for all the things that you do for us. We pray now, Lord, that as this council is in session, that, Lord, you would grant them wisdom, God, to understand those things that they need to do, and give them, Lord, the wisdom to make those decisions that benefit this city, to help the citizens of this precious city, Lord, to achieve those things that each one desires. I pray, God, that you would help us, Lord, to work beyond our differences and come together collectively for the greater good. Lord, guide each one that's a part of this council, and guide this great city, Lord, as we continue to aspire to the greater, Lord, reasons that you have created this wonderful community. We pray blessing upon all those that convene tonight. Give strength and guidance and direction to each one. And we ask all of these things in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. At this time, is there a motion to adopt the regular meeting agenda?
So moved.
All right, motion's been made by Counselor Denton and seconded by Counselor Holloway. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Holloway?
Yes.
Counselor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gore?
Yes.
Counselor Denton?
Yes.
Counselor Pelham?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. At this time, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Counselor Holloway and seconded by Counselor Pelham. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Holloway?
Yes.
Counselor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gore?
No.
Counselor Denton?
Yes.
Counselor Pelham?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay. Communications from citizens. Will you please read the statement and have the assistant clerk please bring over the sign-up sheet?
A communication from citizens, period, limited in total time to 30 minutes is part of the order of business at each regular council meeting. All persons addressing the council shall approach the microphone, give their name, and if they reside in Hopewell, their ward number, and limit comments to 3 minutes. No one is permitted to speak on any item scheduled for consideration on regular agenda of the meeting. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body. Any questions must be asked through the presiding officer. Any person who makes personal, impertinent, abusive, or slanderous statements or incites disorderly conduct in council chambers may be barred by the mayor from further audience before council and removed subject to appeal to a majority of council. See Rules 405 and 406.
Okay. First person I have signed up tonight is Edward Cotman.
Good afternoon. I reside at 2700 Suffolk Street, Hopewell. I was here in the last, well, I won't say last meeting, but a meeting for concerning the building of a home in that area. And as I stated before, we have a quiet, very well kept. I don't think the city of Hopewell has spent money in that area in crime prevention in the last 10 years. This lady right here should know very well.
All right.
All right? Now, we're talking about building a home there, changing the chemistry of the neighborhood. In an unorthodox lot, next to a home that sat there for 3 years vacant because it couldn't be sold because of the connection of the previous owner and the land that he owned. There's approximately 4 feet between that lot and the wall of that home that currently exists. But our main concern in that neighborhood is changing the chemistry of the neighborhood. And I'm asking to leave the neighborhood as it is. We have good neighbors. We have peace in the neighborhood. We don't have any drugs in the area. We don't have any robberies. It's a great neighborhood, and we'd like to see it kept just that way. Thank you.
Next person that I have signed up for tonight is Randy Jordan.
How you doing? My name's Randy Jordan. I live at 2606 Suffolk Street, and I'm a neighbor to Mr. Cotman, and I just wanted to voice my same opinion as his. It's a quiet neighborhood. The lot's been vacant for many years. It's a quiet end of the street, and it'll just mess up the chemistry of how everything is if it changes of building a house there. I was also told by the previous owner of the house that by city code, a house could not be built on that plot because you couldn't build the size of a house, a livable house on that plot because of where it sits adjacent to the house because of property lines and everything like that. That was just what the previous owner voiced to me. So I just wanted to add on to my opinion with Mr. Cotman that I just don't want to mess up the chemistry. It's quiet. It's just very peaceful down there, don't have no problems. It's just a nice neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have signed up is Carlos Hopkins.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As I understand from the clerk's communication, this is not the time to speak on an item that's a regular agenda item. So if there's a more appropriate time, I can reserve my remarks until that time. It's listed as the R1 under the regular agenda for stormwater.
Okay.
Oh, I can make
Yeah.
a motion.
All right. You want to make a motion to waive the rules?
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion to waive the rules to allow Mr. Hopkins to speak on R1 stormwater fee study.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Gore and seconded by Councilor Denton. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gore?
Yes.
Counselor Denton?
Yes.
Counselor Summer?
And Mr. Mayor, would you explain to the audience why we did that so that he'll understand too in the future?
Yeah.
And we normally don't speak on, agenda items.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, just let the audience know. Would you let the audience know?
Well, we need to finish the vote first.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a discussion. Okay, yes, but the discussion is, please explain to
Yeah.
everyone why we're doing this.
So for the audience and for those that are watching, the reason why we're waiving the rules is because one of our rules with our regular meetings is you can't speak on topics that are on the agenda under communications from citizens unless City Council waives the rules.
And I would say maybe in the future councils, they would change that, because it makes sense to speak on it, so I never liked that rule personally, but y'all can take care of that next year.
Go ahead, Mr. Hopkins.
Well, I'll refrain from commenting on that portion, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the council for its allowing me to speak and the consideration given. Very briefly, again, my name is Carlos Hopkins, an attorney with Gentry Lock Attorneys, and I'm here on behalf of several of the manufacturers here in Hopewell, specifically Advent 6, West Rock, and Ashland. And just want to speak briefly, and I'll keep my remarks to 3 minutes, despite being an attorney. First of all, I want to recognize that the members of the manufacturers are obviously active members here in the Hopewell community, and greatly appreciate the support and the assistance and the cooperation that they've gotten from the city in managing the facilities there at the water treatment facility. We also understand the need for the city to balance its budget, its fiscal responsibility, and the importance of that to its citizens, but also to the business community. And so the manufacturers understand that there are rising revenue concerns. They're also concerned with the rising cost, whether it's related to steel, energy, and other materials that they have to face as well. And so the concerns with respect to the proposal to increase the stormwater rates has them concerned about the negative impacts that would have on their business. The proposal before this committee, I understand tonight it's on first reading, would essentially increase the amount from $4 to $8 per unit, and a reduction of the current credit from 90% to 20%. That would effectively amount to about a 1,500% increase for the manufacturers. And so they're certainly aware and cognizant of the pressures that the city faces in making sure it balances its budget. But the concern is with the increased cost that they're incurring currently, as well as the increased cost brought about by the proposal. They would respectfully ask if the council would consider alternative means to comply with its stormwater obligations, or seek alternative means to meet the other revenue concerns that are affecting the city. And so with that, members, I appreciate sincerely this opportunity to address the council and just to make those concerns of the manufacturers aware to the council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak that hasn't spoken tonight? Okay. Hearing none, we're going to keep moving on. We'll move on to public hearings. Madam Clerk, will you please read the statement?
All persons addressing the council shall step to the microphone, give their name, and if they reside in Hopewell, their ward number, and limit comments to 3 minutes. No one may address the council more than once per meeting unless granted permission by the presiding officer. Speakers address the council as a body, not individual councilors. Questions are asked of councilors and staff through the presiding officer. Any person who makes personal, impertinent, abusive, or slanderous statements or incites disorderly conduct in the council chambers may be reprimanded by the presiding officer and removed from the meeting upon a majority vote of councilors present, excluding any councilor who is the subject of the motion. See Rules 405 and 406.
Mr. Ward?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Tonight's first public hearing regards a conditional use permit request, and that request is to construct a single-family dwelling on non-conforming lot parcel 014-1585 located at the end of Suffolk Street. Just for the record, I believe the first two speakers tonight in Citizen Communications actually were speaking in regards to this application. The applicant is Ibrahim and Tanya Yiwa. This particular property is located in Ward 5 and zoned R2. The request is to construct a single-family dwelling on this parcel, and the department followed all state law regarding public notice. With these maps here, you can see the general location map of this particular property, and then on the right-hand side is an aerial view of the parcel in question. In R2, the minimum lot size is 75 feet wide and total minimum square footage is 7,500 square feet. This particular parcel, 0141585, is approximately 70 feet wide at the setback line and 7,281 square feet. So the nonconformities are both in the width and the total lot size. The applicants are proposing to construct a two-story single-family dwelling, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 1,665 square foot home here. You've got an image of the proposed front and rear elevations, as well as the left and right side elevations. When staff analyzed the application, it was determined that this application does meet the 7 CUP approval criteria, as well as it's being consistent with the comprehensive plan. The proposed dwelling is significantly larger than the average single-family dwelling in this neighborhood, where they average around 1,187 square feet. Again, this proposed dwelling is 1,665. And as required by the ordinance, this proposed dwelling must meet the setbacks for the R2 district. Staff recommends approval of this conditional use permit application with the following conditions. Number one, that the new dwelling have 12-inch minimum eaves along all roof edges. The lot will have minimum coverage of 20% tree canopy. A driveway of asphalt or concrete will be installed. The new dwelling will have brick or stone foundation on all 4 sides, as well as foundation plantings along the front. And that this new dwelling will be in substantial conformance with the set of house plans presented to the Planning Commission on October 5th, with any modifications that came out of that. I believe the Planning Commission recommended adding a few more windows, and the applicants agreed. Again, that was the one change from Planning Commission recommendations from staff. Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval. I'm available for any questions if you have any. The applicants are also here this evening if you have questions for them.
Okay. Are there any questions from council before we open up the public hearing? Okay, seeing no lights. All right, the public hearing is now open. We don't have anyone signed up. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this issue? Okay. Public hearing is now closed.
Can I have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
In the future, Mr. Ward, can you, the conditions that we have to vote on, can you also make sure that if there are additional accepted standard ones, if the Planning Commission has recommended something to add that to this page, and that way we'll have all of it on one page?
Certainly. For clarification's sake, Planning Commission just recommended adding windows. They did not want to set that as a condition of approval in case they didn't line up with the floor plan.
Oh, okay.
So it was just a recommendation that came out of the public hearing at Planning Commission, but it was not set as a formal condition of approval.
No, I think windows is appropriate, yeah. When we get to discussion, I think we should add that.
Well, we're in.
I know, we're still in public here. Okay. Just remind me.
Okay. All right, is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make the motion to approve, as written in the recommendation from the planning commission. It's a larger larger size dwelling. We always looking for things to be upgraded in our neighborhood. So I'll make that motion.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded.
What is the motion?
The motion's to approve the conditional use permit as presented and approved by the Planning Commission.
With the recommendations of the planning committee to add the windows.
Okay.
Ms. Denton?
Yeah. Okay. So does everyone understand the motion? Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Counselor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gore?
Yes.
Counselor Denton?
Yes.
Counselor Pelham?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on to public hearing number 2. Dr. Manker.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Mayor, and members of council, tonight you have before you an ordinance and a resolution, which is an amendment of the Hopewell City Charter. In this ordinance, September the 10th, the council approved the legislative agenda, which included the amendment to the charter to reassign certain duties of the treasurer under the purview of the city manager. In this ordinance, the finance director shall provide oversight of the finances of the city and aid in maintaining good fiscal standing by maintaining a general accounting system for city government and each of its departments, including boards and commissions, offices, agencies that conform with the best recognized practice in governmental accounting, and by encumbering of each appropriation and allotment thereof with the amount of each purchase, order, payroll, and contract. Auditing before payment for legality and correctness of accounts, claims, and demands against the city. 3, managing and accessing city cash and investments, including but not limited to those investments in the Virginia local government investment pool administered by cash management and investment divisions of the Virginia Treasury, and having custody and control of all investments and investment funds of the city and its possession, and the capacity unless otherwise required by the charter, law, or ordinance, or the terms of any trust, by safekeeping all bonds and notes of the city, and the receipt of delivery of the city bonds and notes or transfer. 4, managing and accessing of all bank accounts for the city, including management of associating banking relationships and procurement of new banking contracts and as required. No money shall be drawn from the bank account of the city except by warranted or check signed by the finance director and upon the finance receipt of corresponding voucher. 5, managing and accessing all revenue and accounting and auditing of fund activity involve managing the deposit and disbursement of all city accounts. This activity is responsible for the reconciliation of bank, investment, credit card, merchant accounts, revenue, expenditures, accounts related to the city's leisure. 6, administering the emergency medical service billing services but exclude collections. 7, managing and maintaining custody of all electronic documents, documentation, paper documents, and documentation, and software-related access passwords to all banking and investment accounts. And 8, the city managers to be authorized to designate specific city departments and employees necessary to aid the finance director, and above all described changes in duties and functions, including but not limited to making necessary transfers of funds from the city's treasurer's office, existing appropriation authority, to the department so designated to complete all these duties and tasks. The treasurer shall be responsible for billing, collecting, and receiving all monies due to the city from the state and all taxes levied due to the state collected within the city, and disperse the same using the procedures now and hereafter prescribed in law. In performing these duties, the treasurer shall be entitled to employ such staff as the state compensation board authorized. And lastly, the treasurer shall have all other duties as council may prescribe by ordinance. The ordinance and the resolution is here to be presented to the legislation for an official charter change.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions to Dr. Manker before we open up the public hearing?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Madam Attorney, in the fourth whereas, where it says it's prescribed to the Director of Finance under the supervision of the city manager, and isn't it correct that our charter gives the financial directorship council supervisor, him or her? Should that be somewhere our name in there, or for the general supervision of?
She's saying that in the charter.
Under the
it
general
indicates
supervision.
that the council gives the permission to
Yeah.
the city council. I thought you wrote that in here.
I don't know if I did or not. It's in
We-
the chart.
If it's not in here, we can add it, but she says it's already in the charter.
Okay, so, I mean,
This is not to replace, it's to amend. It's not replacing what's already there.
well, could you say it again in here so then it could be double correct? The ordinance can reflect something that we have some supervisory responsibility.
Okay. She said, could you just add?
I don't know, that's just my comment, if it can be done, if the council agree, if not, it's okay too. Just
In
think
the-
of what,
in the
if
charter.
if it's added to the motion in the end, but that's just something for the council to think about.
Prescribing. Mhm.
Yeah,
Under
but
the supervision, okay.
but in the charter, it says the council gives permission to the city manager. She just wants you to add that here before signing the ordinance.
Okay, that's not a problem.
Okay, she said that's not a problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this? We don't have anyone signed up. Yes, ma'am?
Debbie Randolph, Ward 1. I look forward to you all voting for this and passing it so that we can get this legislative change done. It should have taken place years ago. We have had many problems with many different aspects of the treasurer's office, and not the least daily reconciliation, which should have been done years ago. So I hope that I see this go as a positive vote. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Okay. Hearing none. Public hearing is now closed. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You writing your name down?
She is. Yeah, Brittany is.
Darlene Thompson, Ward 6. I didn't know this was going on today, this evening, but I would like to know who's going to have oversight over City Council. We had the Robert Bob Group to come in. They charged $2.3 million. They told the citizens that we were in a financial bind and that they needed money. Come to find out, they had jacked up the budget to almost $7.2 million over what it should have been. You all came back on the citizens and charged them another increase their tax rate from 113 to 117. You all had already got 4.3 million. Last year, you came back and got another 4.3 this year. Okay? So I don't know if you all know who Bernard Madoff is, but you all are doing the same thing, coming after the taxpayers that give you all a seat there, jacking up budgets. The treasurer's not here, but to me, she is used as a scapegoat. I'm not taking up for her. I just see what has been happening at these city council meetings. You all knew that Branson lied, but you all sat in it and allowed them to tell the citizens that you all needed money. You all are no different when there is fraud and corruption. It doesn't matter how that pie is sliced. All of you all are involved. And you all knew it was a lie. You knew that it was an overassessment of the citizens' taxes. And you all have done nothing about it. And y'all sitting here trying to point fingers. This had been going on since 2014, that reconciliation was not being done. But each one of you all, three new came on, y'all continue to spend money. I asked Brenda Pelham, okay, where is this money coming from? Okay, even this year, you all have came back, we are broke. But I just heard last meeting, y'all spend another 1.3 million, up in the millions of dollars. Corruption doesn't matter how it is. That piece of pie, it can be sliced 100 different ways depending on the corruption. And you all are just as much involved and has done just as much as what you all are trying to blame the treasurer's office for. It starts with you all. You all are the ones that cast that final vote. Your city manager is getting paid $180,000, then turn around, got a new company's vehicle, all in when you all are saying we don't have money. Okay? No experience. Like I said, anyone should be able to run for city council, but it needs to be some qualifications behind you all's name, okay? Because every last one of you all are guilty of what's going on in this city. I didn't know that this was going on. You can take whatever duties you want. The three that's coming in now, they are green. They have no clue as to what is going on in this city. So the four that's left is going to be able to lead and guide them any way they want them to go. But you all are just as corrupt. She is the scapegoat. She is the youngest one, new in her position. But you all have sat there, some of you all, for 20-some odd years, from 12 to 20-some odd years. You all spend the city's money. Okay? You all knew that reconciliation wasn't being done. And y'all
Thompson, your
continue
time is
to
up.
spend.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Get your house clean. Clean your house.
Is there
'Cause it
anyone
doesn't
else in the
start with
audience that
just
would
one
like to
person.
speak on this public hearing?
Can I speak since you called my name?
Yeah, once we finish closing the public hearing. All right, public hearing is now closed. Councilor Pelham?
Yes. Since Ms. Thompson called my name, I would like just to clarify something. I am a part, 1/7 part of that pie that you talk about. And in doing that, in 2015, Councilor Gore and I tried to get the city to do a forensic audit. And every council, that councils plus the subsequent councils would not agree. This was the first year. Last year, we brought Rob Bob Group in, was the first year that we got people to agree that we had to do something, and that something was done. And so I'm not making excuses. I am a part of it, and I go along with when the majority works. I think that group coming in, opened their eyes even further. But there were people definitely who were adamant about not having an audit up until 2015. And I would say that if that audit had gone through back then, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in. We did not know that we were going to have a 7. We had been snowed a couple of times by administration, truly. And I was shocked as anybody to know that we came up with a $7.1 million excess of our budget at the end of the year. And with that money, but before that happened, you need to understand that the tax rate had to be set before June of this year. I voted against the tax raise, but for the citizens. However, after it had been done, you just can't arbitrarily say, well, we're gonna take that tax rate back. You can only adjust in the future, and I'm hoping that council would do that next year. So, say what you want to say. Everybody does what they have to do based on the information they have and the input that they get back from their citizens when they make every vote that they make. So I think I've done that in 20 years, and I stand on the record that I voted for. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any comments? All right. Seeing no lights. Let me see. Pull up the motion. Is there a motion to approve and adopt the proposed ordinance and resolution that reassigns certain duties and functions of the Hopewell City Treasurer to departments under the purview of the city manager?
So moved.
With the amendment that you will add the language about the city council responsibilities in the ordinance.
Okay.
I agree to that.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Yep.
Second.
Yep. Okay. All right. Any discussion? Oh,
Is there an effective time on this?
not for the first one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what,
Is there-
restate the motion, please?
To approve and adopt the proposed ordinance and resolution that reassigns certain duties and functions of the city treasurer to departments under the purview of, I think it's city council, city manager.
City council.
Okay,
It's the amendment of the city charter.
right. Yeah, this is for the charter change.
This is the charter change. So moved.
Okay. Vice Mayor Gore?
Yes. So this is for the amendment for the charter change, but we've already discussed this in our legislative committee. So take into account what was discussed in closed session, I do think that this needs to have a time.
That's the second motion.
Second, why can't it be done now?
This one.
Because one is specifically for the charter change and the other is to implement it right away.
It has to be separate.
Yes.
Yeah, they can't hear you.
It needs to be separate.
I can't hear you, so I know they can't.
It
She's
needs to be
asking why we
separate
can't do it
because
all in
we
one
need the
motion
ordinance,
and just-
a charter ordinance approved for the legislative.
Two
They
things.
need a separate.
Okay. I think you can be done in one bit. It's fine.
Okay. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, roll call, please.
Counselor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Absolutely, yes.
Vice Mayor Gore?
Yes.
Counselor Denton?
Yes.
Counselor Pelham?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right. Is there a motion to implement the reassignment of the treasurer duties and responsibilities citing Chapter 4, Section 7 of the city's charter to take effect immediately, and the reassignment of the accountant and deputy treasurer 2 from the treasurer's department to the finance department?
So moved.
Is it chapter 6 or 4? I think it is.
It's
6.
4.
4.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
It still doesn't put a time.
Yeah, immediately.
Is it immediate?
Yeah.
Yours? Okay.
Make sure you capture immediately in that. Roll call, please.
Counselor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gore?
Yes.
Counselor Denton?
Yes.
Counselor Pelham?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay.
Council
I'm sorry. Yeah.
There had to be
Oh,
some
and
transition.
Madam Clerk, before we leave tonight, I'll sign the ordinance.
Okay.
All right, moving on to regular business. R1, Mr. Campbell.
Good evening, Mayor Parton, Vice Mayor Gore, council members. So, earlier this year, we had a stormwater stormwater utility fee study conducted by CDM Smith. I wasn't able to be present, but Public Works was here, and the gentleman came in and presented their findings. What I wanted to do today was basically show you some options on a first reading ordinance change. Let's see. All right, so City of Hopewell Stormwater Management Program is currently funded by a $4 utility fee. It's used to provide services and facilities related to the stormwater management program. Like I said, we worked with CDM Smith. They came in and presented on October with their findings. The stormwater utility fee was created in July of 2015 and has not changed since then. The CDM Smith looked at many localities, many surrounding localities. Many of the localities are similar to us in size and scope. The findings were that basically our fees are inconsistent with peer cities and general industry standards. So what we have now is I just want to show you what our current budget looks like. We right now we have an annual budget. This is an enterprise fund, by the way. I'm sure you're all aware, but right now we get about $905,000 a year total for all of our stormwater needs. That will not cover maintenance and compliance. We will not be able to cover our compliance aspect of our stormwater program with just $905,000. And it's flat, obviously, because there's no adjustment there. It's $4 ERU, and it's 90% credit for industry with a 10% tax. So we have staff ranking of suggestions here, and let me also explain why we rank these the way we did. Part of the ordinance change is that we're proposing, staff is proposing, has a requirement in there that engineering and stormwater every 4 years do a new assessment to see where we're at with our fees as compared, the same way we did with CDM Smith, to see if we need to adjust up, adjust down. So that's why our staff ranking number 4 is an 8-year rolling increase in utility fee of 50 cents. We just feel in 8 years we're going to be somewhere else, and we don't want to do this and just back off and go hands off on this. We want to keep an eye on this. We want to review this periodically, and if we do an 8-year term, I'm afraid it just will fester. All of these proposals include the reduction for the incentive to 20% for industry. Again, that's based off of the standard around the area with other localities. And you can see here the impact that this would have over the course of the next few years. Now, I'd like to point out we won't be fully funded under any of these circumstances. Everything I show you, there's going to be red. What we will be is we'll be able to use the funds that we gather from the increased rates to leverage for grants, to be able to do the actual capital improvement projects that need to be done for the stormwater. So none of these proposals, the $8 and the 20%, that won't cover it. But it'll get us somewhere really important. It'll get us to compliance, it'll get us maintenance, and it'll get us match money for grants. So our staff ranking number 3 is just a reduction of the industrial credit. You can see the money there. It takes us to, let's see here. Annual budget. Yeah, so it would give us an extra $280,000, something like that. And it would make it, we would be able to I think we'd be able to maintain compliance here. We wouldn't have any money for our match. For the next ranking, staff ranking number 2, this is a 2-year rolling increase in the fee of $2 in industrial credit reduction. This is for us to get to the $4 in 2 years and just make it a little bit more palatable. $2 next year, $2 a year after that. It doesn't hit the residents quite so hard so fast. And then I'll show you the numbers here again. We still won't, for FY25, be fully funded. And again, I'll remind you that for none of these we are. But we're getting closer. Now, if we go to the staff recommendation, staff ranking number 1, which is the $4 utility increase in the 20% industry, you can see that at least for FY25, we'll cover our expenditures. We're in the red much less over the course of the next few years. The reason why FY29 is so small is because we have needs we haven't even identified yet. These are just identified needs. So these numbers will continue to grow as our CIP grows. So from a staff perspective, increasing the base rate for the utility fee from $4 to $8, reduce the current 90% utility fee incentive offered to large industry and replace it with 20% incentive, and then to conduct a stormwater utility fee assessment every 4 years to ensure that the necessary funds are budgeted for each budget cycle. Again, that could very well mean backing off. It just depends on where we're at that point. Now, attached, I just wanted to show you have this for your reading. We're certainly not going to go through all this. We have the current ordinance that's been redlined, so you can see what we're proposing there. And I'd be happy to take any questions that you have at this point.
Counselor Pell and then Counselor Joyner.
Yeah, well, I'm not in favor of this, right? That's what I'm talking about. We really, I think the upcoming year, with the help of Ms. Stacy, our new finance director, will be the first year that the city council next year will be able to have a budget that's not inflated. So we won't have an overage like we've had in the past years. So at that time, I'm sure with reason, we'll be able to compare whether or not the assessment's going to go up. Of course, that's something that's a part of inflation in the process of America. Property values go up. Citizens have to pay more money. And so the tax rate hopefully will go down. And until I think this council has an uninflated budget for real, with a person that finally knows what she's doing, and with her recommendation and watching the budget as she does, that we'll be able to make a more intelligent decision about money. But I wouldn't be voting for this tonight because it's just too early on to know all those factors. And again, to put an increase on the citizen base without knowing that, I don't think it would be fair to our citizens. So I can't agree with it right now. And these are all projected numbers, so we don't really know what the real number's going to be. I mean,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. As far as what you said, something about at 59, you can't even imagine how much it's going to come to. But the number you have for next year, is that concrete? Is that a concrete projection of how much money you need next year?
Yes.
That's
why I said, no, that's the issue that we're having here with our failing infrastructure is that tomorrow somebody could call in with a new sinkhole.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would go, okay, well, now we need another $1 million.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, infrastructure is killing everybody across the world too, states as well, I know. And I'm an infrastructure person.
Before I walked in here, it's concrete. Before I walked in here tonight,
It is
that's
concrete.
the number, right?
That 2 million.
For stormwater.
Yeah, stormwater, that's what I'm
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we've had no success, there's been no, general fund allocations to stormwater projects. It's
Yeah.
been grant money, it's been the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. The one thing I would say about the Stormwater Enterprise Fund is that, again, with it not being in line with, we do know what some of our needs are, and like I said, compliance and maintenance, we know what those are. Using maintenance in the classical term, of just a normal, like, cleaning out stuff, even though Winston Churchill, technically, that's maintenance, even though it's a terrible emergency repair. The fact that the rates just aren't even close to what is normally charged. For me, I feel like I would just say that you do have flexibility when you with the budget and with the finance director moving forward in the future, where maybe some of the things, maybe there's other places that you could be more flexible with.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like with the enterprise fund, with the money that the stormwater is, this money is dedicated to just that.
right.
That we should hope that we can shoot for covering its expenses with this fund.
Right.
That's all.
Okay. Oh, yeah, now, why such a large drop in the incentive program for the plants from 90% to 20%?
Yeah, so I could not even begin to tell you why anybody ever agreed to 90%.
Oh,
I can-
I can tell you, because somebody likes somebody. If somebody liked somebody and they decided that I'm gonna do this for the plants, okay, next question.
So I want to be very clear about that too. I want to clear up a misconception. I met with a representative from Advancix this morning and explained this. Ultimately, it makes no difference if industry is pumping 1 gallon into our system. That has nothing to do with it.
Okay,
They're in the city. They're part of our MS4 program. Their stormwater permit that they have and all the stormwater work that they do, they have to do that no matter what. That's required by law. That's not something that they're doing special for us. Okay? There are plenty of homeowners who I'm sure don't discharge any stormwater into anything. Their lots are probably graded funny. Maybe they have a nice fish pond. I don't know. But they still have to pay the tax.
that's right.
They still have to pay the utility fee. And this is not like a
No,
targeted.
I agree that, I'm not
Yeah,
advocating
this is-
that they don't pay anything. I was just wondering why we dropped so much, and it's because we didn't really charge them what we should have been charging them years ago, probably.
And
And in your experience, what is that ratio in other cities?
I'm sorry.
What is that ratio in other cities and counties?
Well, generally speaking, we saw 20%. Now there are some that I will admit there are some that have 40, but
But
20%.
nothing over 50,
Nobody.
nobody.
This was
But
our
Hopewell.
consultant. Everyone I talked to was blown away that we had a 90% stormwater credit.
Yeah, so I mean, do we ever have a work session on this or something to see how she can get in and maybe y'all can tell us if the plants were paid, say to get the credit for 50%, how much that would cover, and after you can determine whether or not the assessments or whatever can take care of some things versus just going up on the citizen base.
I will also add that
Because you just like you said, the citizens don't disperse stormwater.
I'm also not asking for action tonight. I have to come back to you here next month,
Yeah.
and that'll also be a public hearing, right? Because we're looking at an ordinance change. So, any specific information, anything that you want to see, any questions that I can possibly work out between now and then, I will. right, you know, I brought this information basically kind of from the it's been a minute, but
Right.
kind of from the feedback from when CDM Smith came here and spoke to you all. But if you need to see something else or you need to see more,
That's
please
what I
just
would suggest.
let Dr. Manker know, and Dr. Manker
Let
will
both of
do
y'all
it
know
later.
right now.
Right?
That
She'll
you need
That's
some
the
other, you need
position.
some other proposals.
Yeah.
That's less taxing on our citizen base, but yet not, giving it all to the, industry as well, and see what we can come up with. And I just think, because I'm not agreeing with approve this on the first reading anyway, so I was gonna recommend that we do not approve it tonight on the first reading, and that we do another reading. So then you can bring all that information back, and you have more information to make a feasible decision with. Because I'm gonna vote no tonight, if it come to a vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
All right, it's Counselor Joyner, myself, and then Counselor Denton, and then Vice Mayor Gore.
Right. Thank you very much. I'm concerned about the numbers. And when you're looking at projections, and you have the same thing projected every single year for the next 5 years, it gives me pause. And now I know that does not, and like these capital needs here and these staff, I'm looking at, there's so many different versions here, but also, I'd like to see the calculations that you use to come up with these numbers. I see these numbers here, but they're the roll-ups. I'd like to see the calculations and how you came up with the
Like what projects are being
yeah, what
funded?
projects, I'd just like to see that, and I just don't think it makes any sense to see, just like program management, 340 for the next 5 years, 340,000, I'm looking at a current budget breakdown. That's not an accurate forecast. I'd like to see what was your program management for the last 5 years? It wasn't the same every single year, was it?
Well, all we have in that.
I might
No,
be
where
wrong.
we're at with the program management is basically phosphorus credits. Okay, so it's our MS4 compliant. So
Okay.
the number, there's no way for us to predict what it'll be in 3 years, but we know what it is,
Okay.
and that's why that
But
number.
has it been, if you look 5 years back, would it have been the same number all the way across?
They are sold through banks,
Okay,
so it's like the stock market.
okay, so you're just.
So it could be higher, it could be lower, it could
All
be.
right. So, but, even in operations and maintenance, you're projecting the same thing for the next 5 years,
So
every year.
operations, well, that's because that's all we have. That's what we have right now. That number, that line item is showing that that's what we have budgeted with the
But
905.
I understand, but when you're looking and you're projecting out, you need to be looking at what was your, how did you do the last 5 years? If you're doing projections, you have to be comparing to something. It just strikes me that these numbers, I don't really have confidence in some of these numbers. And I would reiterate what Councilor Pelham said. To jump from 90 to 20 seems a little off to me. I know that they looked at different localities, and I know you're looking at square footage and all that kind of thing. But when you're looking at other localities, maybe they don't have the same industrial base as we do. I know you're looking, once again, I know it's square footage and all of that, but it seems a little dramatic to run from 90 to 40.
Well, I can.
90 to 20, excuse me.
I don't know how I can fit it in, but we can go over the stormwater study again.
Okay.
I think that the numbers were presented there, how they came up with that.
Yeah, I'd just like to see a little more detail in the numbers so that it can make sense to me.
Sure.
That's all I'm concerned about.
Okay.
And maybe you've got some projects, these capital, I was looking at the capital numbers you bumped out for, I guess, the staff, the number one. So, the capital needs,
Yeah,
just staffing
like I
for the
said,
role.
we're, I just need to understand where these numbers come from. That's my main thing.
Yeah, and then,
So-
and I understand what you're saying, and we do have that. We've created it's part of the CIP, but it's a stormwater CIP.
Yeah, I'd just like to see that Excel spreadsheet that shows how you,
Well, that's,
how
yeah,
these formulas
that-
come.
it does exist, and
Yeah.
the only thing I would point out again, I just want to remind everyone is that it was accurate when I came in here.
Pardon?
It was accurate when I
Oh,
walked
I
in here.
understand that.
Yeah, it's-
I get that. I get that.
And we haven't identified
Right.
all the city's needs.
But we're looking at, once again, increases on the citizens are gonna bear, a good portion of this, and, it is 100% increase from 4 to 8, and I understand that we are behind the times in terms of the rate, I get that. We do need to do something. I'm just saying I wanna make sure that I understand why we're doing it, and that we're being fair and equitable along the way.
I definitely understand, and I can provide the numbers in
Okay.
a more friendly format with some tie-ins to some actual
Yeah.
projects.
I'd like to see more than just the roll-ups, okay?
Sure.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
Okay. Counselor Denton, myself, and then Vice Mayor Gore.
Just a quick question. You may not, I know you don't have to, but when you did cut the industry from 90 to 20, did you discuss this at all with industry?
Absolutely not.
Is there a reason that you would not, or it's just you didn't?
Because there's no circumstance in which they would say that this was a good idea.
There you go.
Yeah,
I mean, as was evidenced by a last-minute meeting this morning and then them showing up today.
I just found, sometimes it seems to help if you sit down. They may be able to help you rather than,
Right. We did have the meeting this morning per the representative from one of the companies' request, where I went over this, but at the same time, I do want to make very clear. I mean, I apologize. I was kind of flippant. This was, again, we had a stormwater presentation from CDM Smith. Nothing about this has been quiet or fast. This is something we've talked about. This was a Russ Branson recommendation back during the budget. So I just, nothing has been underhanded or sneaky or quiet here.
no, because
I know you're not saying that. I just want to.
because I had heard that the rate was going to go from 4 to 8, and I keep looking at my bill, and I'm still paying $4. So
The recommendation for it is actually in the approved budget, the recommendation. We wanted to make sure that we had facts and science and data to back up the decision to raise rates, hence the study. From a third party. I mean, obviously, we paid them and whatever, but their professional integrity is on the line, so. That's how we're here. We're 7 months later, 6 months later, or whatever, from the original recommendation.
thank you.
So, my feedback that I have on this is, I have no problem with, reducing the industrial credit. I don't think that you can ask citizens to pay 100% for something and give a 90% discount to industry, which can easily pay this. And also that email that they sent us said that they had several projects that were coming up, and maybe Mr. Hopkins, you can relay this to the members of industry. I would love to see what all those capital projects are. I think it would be great to even have a timeline and what the anticipated cost of those are going to be. I think because in that way, we know what expansions are potentially coming, to, and facility improvements are coming to the city. So, I do support an industrial credit reduction. Now the other thing I didn't see on here that I think that we should do, because I do believe it frees up several hundreds of thousands, of dollars is taking the stormwater fee and moving it from the monthly billing and putting it on the real estate tax.
I agree with you, sir.
I mean, you get better collections through taxes than you do monthly billings, and we minimize impact, future rate increases into the future.
And that would be our intent. It just doesn't need to be in the ordinance because that would, we would have that ability.
Right.
You all would have that ability to have whoever you wanted bill anybody at any,
Right.
You don't
I just got to state for public record. It's
I'm with you.
It's
and
an
I
annual
agree with you
plea.
wholeheartedly. I think the numbers were we were losing a couple $100,000 a year in collections on that.
I think it's
it added up to over $1 million.
Right. I think it's like between $150,000 and $200,000 that the city loses out each year because we don't put it on the tax bill as opposed to the monthly bill.
And it goes to the resident instead of the homeowner.
Right.
Which I think it would be more reasonable as a staff recommendation anyways, that the homeowner.
Well, it's the impervious asset is what it is.
With the impervious asset, pay the fee, not the resident.
And but the only thing that I have issues with, and I know I've mentioned this to you, I know I've mentioned this with Dr. Manker as well, but I'm not a tax increase person. But I had to do it, this last go around because there were, projects that we needed to fund, and we have to, at some point, start making the investment. Well, we've gone on almost now 5 months into this fiscal year, and I haven't seen a whole lot of breaking ground on capital projects.
No.
And I know there are outstanding streets in Ms. Pelham's ward, Mrs. Denton's ward, my ward, and Councilor Joyner's ward that are on the books. We've approved them, and the state money's come in, but I still haven't seen anything happen. And so, until I start seeing, groundbreaking on some of these projects, I have a hard time, going back to the taxpayers and saying, I need you guys to, pony up some more money for capital projects.
Well, I'd like to address that. First off, for our paving preservation, the most efficient way to conduct that is all at once, at one time, with one mobilization. We're doing that in the spring. That's when that's happening. The other thing is right now we're not spending money. And then I guess the third thing is that that these projects, like Heretic, Heretic's not fully funded. So our paving is going to happen in the spring. The projects that we have designed are not fully funded, and right now we're not spending money. So that's why we're not seeing shovels in the ground.
Right, but I mean, I know Petersburg, has and we used to have, twice a year a paving schedule. We had it in the fall, roughly around this time frame, and we also had it in the spring. And so, again, it's hard for me, when I don't have. I mean, at this point, I've literally got nothing to show, for the tax increase in terms of capital investment. And
yeah, I mean, I think that the most important thing is for us to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars that we are asking for, so that would mean that you would want to get the most bang for your buck. And in order to do that, that means us consolidating all of our paving projects into one ball and doing them all under the same contract at the same time.
Right.
And that would be next paving season, especially when we can feed into FY26 and pull that back. So there's strategy there.
yeah, I'm not disagreeing with your strategy, but what I'm saying is, why couldn't that have been done this fall?
Well, what we could have done paving this fall, we would not have gotten as much paving done for the dollar that we will by having waited.
But still, once again, you're asking me to, approve something, a 100% tax increase on this. I don't have anything to show for it.
Okay, I
I
understand.
mean,
I don't have anything that I can reassure you with except for to tell you that we have all this scheduled and that we have a.
Because before you, I've had others that have said, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Well, guess what? we started approving streets back in 2019 when I first came on, and still to this day in 2024, almost 2025, they still ain't paved.
Well, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't-
I'm just telling you,
Yeah, no, I understand.
where
I
the
just
rub
don't
is.
have
I mean,
anything- Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Vice Mayor Gore and then Councilor Joyner.
Yes, I just have a point of clarification as it pertains to the agenda. Clearly, I echo the same comments as my peers, what was stated today. But in regards to the agenda itself, I voted against the consent agenda because on it has, pull it back up, C7 has stormwater fee study second reading. And then the R1 is stormwater fee first reading.
Mm-hmm.
So the consent agenda passed, so wouldn't it still be passing everything?
No, this is coming back in December.
This is just to set the date, or just?
Yeah, it's coming back in the December City Council meeting.
I understand what you're saying, but the way that reads, that's not how that reads.
Yeah.
That's not how.
I mean, that's how it was discussed at the agenda meeting.
Yeah, so just for all intents and purposes, for future councils and those who come behind us, the way that this reads is that it passed on second reading because it was passed through the consent agenda. So those who don't have that historical knowledge or understand the intent, it reads as if it passed. So I just think that we need to I was make sure we're on the same page of where this item to come. I do think that
Oh, yeah, I mean, I
it
wasn't,
needs to be stated that C7 for the consent agenda, if all council agrees with those who voted to approve the consent agenda, make sure the intent is verbally stated in this meeting and documented in the record that it's to come back on the December meeting and not be approved as C7 as the second reading.
Is everyone good with that?
Second reading.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna vote for it.
Okay. I got 6 norths and souths. All right.
All right, that's the only point I was going to make because I was like, let me just wait till later. But I did vote against the consent agenda. Let me make sure I understand. But it was because that's how it reads. So just as in the future, what we need to do is just put it as I can work at the clerk's office or whomever. But in the future, it just goes under like work sessions or another special meeting section of the consent agenda.
Okay. Okay. All right. Seeing no other. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Joyner.
Yeah, I was just saying, Mr. Campbell, if maybe the next meeting or at some point in time, you could provide us with a listing of the paving projects.
Absolutely.
I think that would be great.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Then we know. And, what you're planning in the spring. I think that would be excellent.
I can have them sent to Dr. Maker this week.
That would be terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Really
Sure.
appreciate that.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Ms. Martinez, R2.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, tonight I come before you to follow up from a meeting in September. Unfortunately, timelines and agenda items. This is the first opportunity I was able to get back in front of you. This overview is going to be of the aquatic facility at the Hopewell Community Center in regards to a third-party outside rental agreement that we've been upholding for the past 15 to 20 years. So we're just going to go through quickly because I know we're on a time crunch. It is in your agenda packet. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. But we're going to go over the history of Nova South. It is now known as Nova South, but they have operated under many names throughout their time frame in the community center. They have approximately this season 80, I want to say 88 off the top of my head, swimmers. And their fees from Nova South range from anywhere from $95 to $215 a month for each swimmer. Their duration of the season, they operate in our community center from September, right after Labor Day, all the way up until the end of May, sometimes the beginning of June, depends on the weather, inclement weather, and having to reschedule practices. They typically use a majority of our lane rentals. We have 6 lanes in our community center. They actually will use between 5 and 4, depending on the day, which means we only allow essentially 1 to 2 lanes for our citizens to utilize during that time frame. Hopewell Recreational Parks has a long history with Nova South, as I mentioned before. The directive of my previous leaderships, my predecessors, has always been a little bit different. I believe 2 directors ago, they were required to get a certain amount of cost recovery in regards to the budget. Now, I know that we are going to move the department into the general fund moving in the next fiscal year, so that cost recovery is not as important per se in regards to the services that we offer our citizens. Previous membership fees were also high during that time frame, again, talking about the cost recovery of my predecessor in order to maintain a certain percentage of their request for their budget every year. So we have adjusted the membership rates. Council has graciously approved that back in 2021, I believe, off the top of my head, from my previous predecessor. And that makes the membership rates so much more affordable for our residents. And with that becomes an influx of membership now that that's more affordable. We've also had an influx in Renew and Silver Sneakers. Renew is a new partnership with an insurance plan that they pay for their members to come and utilize our fitness center so that they can stay healthy. And so that's an addition, again, increasing membership. The past season, I apologize, I don't have any more data other than this past 2 seasons, and that's because our previous operating system actually crashed. We don't have access to any of that data anymore. So I do apologize, but I would say it's obviously on an increase because as we move forward, when I inherited this, they were around $5 to $7 per lane per hour. And since then, we have been working to get them up to the city council approved structure, which is $15 per lane per hour. And they've been working with them to get them there without hindering them and doing it all at once. So we've been increasing it $1 per year, essentially, to get to that. And they're given the citizen rate because they do bulk rental, so it is a little bit of a difference. So normally a non-city resident will actually pay $25 per lane per hour. So as you can see, the revenue and costs through there. Make sure I highlight some numbers for you. So we actually have to pay a third party. A Legacy is our third party to help us operate the pool in order to solidify their operations for their practices schedule. So we end up paying in 2022, 2023 about $6,374. And the Nova South ended up paying us around $20,704, which means the city profited about $14,330 after we had to pay the third party. In 2023 to 2024, the swim team had about 339 hours at the community center. Again, we paid a third party $5,497 and some change, and they end up paying a total of $28,510, which means the city profited $23,012. Now, all that's to say, that's just what we net from there. That's not including all the increases that we have during that 9-month season for them. Now, obviously, with the influx of people utilizing the pool, gas is going to go up because we heat the pool. Chlorine's going to go up because it's a lot more usage. Water bills are going to go up because, again, the water splashing. And that's just inevitable when you have that many people utilizing the pool. So our current operation hours are Monday through Friday. The community center is open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. It is my goal to get back to that 6 a.m. opening for our early morning risers. But our pool hours are severely changed. Unfortunately, I only have 2 full-time lifeguards. This PowerPoint presentation says 1 full-time and 2 part-times. I lost my 2 part-timers. I was able to gain a full-timer. So pool hours are from 7 a.m. to noon, and then we close in the middle of the day, and then we reopen 4 to 8. We have not reopened on Saturdays yet, again, because of staffing. And that goes over on this request. The current Nova South, which we have been working with diligently this year to accommodate as much as we can, and they've worked with us to modify some of their requests as well. So Mondays and Wednesdays, they practice from 4:45 p.m. to 6:15. They require 2 lanes. That means we have 2 lanes available for our general public, and at 6:15 it drops down. But unfortunately, during that time frame, we cannot do programming because the majority of our littles that want to do swim lessons have to be in bed and so forth. Tuesdays and Thursdays, they come in at 5 a.m., which means our staff has to get here at least 4:30 in the morning to open up the building to allow them to use access. And then they go until 7 a.m. Again, you can see the lane rentals. They do ask for Saturday mornings. They do a 9:15 to 12:15. They require 4 lanes. So we are currently opening our building for their sole use on Saturdays, in which they use 4 to 6 lanes. They're currently using 6 lanes until we open up to the general public. Once we do that, they'll go down to 4 lanes. So Nova South pays a legacy guard to serve as a second guard on Tuesdays and Thursday AMs. So we provide a guard because that is our requirement through our risk manager and our policies through our department to have at least one of our staff available on site. Again, they have picked up that fee and they pay that, so we're grateful for that. And Nova South has offered to pay the legacy guard to serve as a second guard on Saturdays in exchange for waiving the rental fees for that day. That's not something that we have implemented. Well, we're still paying them to provide that second guard for us on Saturday. So as you notice on that, anything that's in the green is indicated outside of our normal operating hours. So in order to accommodate this swim team, we've had to adjust our hours, and you can see that highlighted there in the green. And then we would also need to contract a guard in the evenings to cover a lot of those hours because, again, I'm down to 2 full-time lifeguards, and in order to operate, I have to have a minimum of 2. Ideally, I would like to have 3 at all times, in case of call-out, 6, rotations, and so forth. So how this ties into our strategic goal for our department, now obviously we want to make sure that we increase community engagement and participation and access to our very lucrative asset of a swim pool, an indoor swim pool, is advantageous for our community to utilize. So we want to make sure that that's available to them to utilize as much as possible. We also want to highlight that accessibility and inclusion is our strategic theme number 4, in which that we want to continue to improve availability and accessibility, quality, and equitable opportunities for all of our citizens, as well as tying into our health and wellness objective. So obviously, again, we're going back to if we can get people in the community center, we can get them to utilize the fitness equipment, we can get them to utilize the pool. It is very important for certain people to use a pool because it is low impact, and so for a lot of our seniors, they greatly appreciate the opportunity to do so because they can actually work on some things that they may not be able to do outdoors. Again, because of the low impact. So all this to say that this is essentially a facility rental within our department. It's no different than renting a pavilion to a citizen. And so ultimately what I believe is the best path forward is to, again, continue to treat this as a facility rental. I will be proposing an internal department of policy to our city manager for approval, but basically restricting outside agencies from commanding space to the detriment of our community access, drop-in, and programming of the department. It is the Hopewell Recreation and Parks belief that the policy is in place to ensure that all members of the community have fair and equitable access to the Recreation and Community Center. And so if you have any questions, I will answer those to the best of my ability.
Let's see, I have Councilor Pelham first, and then Gore, and then Joyner.
You said something initially about something called $215. Was that $215 per swimmer per month or?
Correct. Their swim fees for their swimmers based off of their website starts at $95 for their youngest ones And for their senior swimmers, it's $215 a month. That is correct, per swimmer.
But that's what you receive.
Not what I receive, what Nova South receives.
Okay. And if you need have the requirement for an additional guard, why wouldn't you allow, you can't exchange, I understand, the rental for that, but why aren't they paying for that guard? Why should the city pay for their lifeguard?
Excellent question. So what we have done historically is try to treat this as a partnership. Obviously, it's getting our youth into the pool. It's providing them an opportunity that the rec center does not offer at the moment, you know, with our sports leagues. So it does provide that opportunity. So we do try to treat it as a partnership. And with that being said, we have again made accommodations, and there are things that I am trying to tweak that I have been trying to tweak over the 2 years that I've been in the seat. Unfortunately, I just can't change this stuff overnight. For this, they've been a partner for over 15 years. It's a slow adjustment. It's not something that we can make immediately.
They pay taxes in Hopewell?
No.
I cannot answer that question. I have asked for demographics as far as how many of our Hopewell residents are on the team, and I have not received that information as of today.
Oh, okay. Is that a homeschooling group, or what does NOVA stand for, you know?
NOVA, it's just a swim organization. They tie into NOVA in general. It's just a swimming organization, swimming league.
Are they out of Colonial Heights?
They are all over the place. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the majority come from Chesterfield and Enon area. We are the closest indoor swimming pool in that area. And then, of course, they have NOVA that actually practices up in Richmond.
They got a bigger tax base than we do. We should not be funding anything, in my opinion. And we have the upper hand because you have to negotiate that contract every year, right?
That is what I would like to do. I have mentioned that to the contact that we have, that I am not interested in signing anything longer than a year because I cannot guarantee as to what will change within my department and the city's needs amongst its citizens.
And
so
before you sign that contract, I think somebody need to pass it through the city council. I mean, we can't. Yeah. I would not recommend paying anybody's fees when they're not a tax base in Hopewell. I mean, we might stand the risk of losing the whole contract. I'm not sure, but you got to negotiate somewhere better. The taxpayer should not be paying somebody else's requirements. You know, that's a minimum. You got to provide what you need. We provide a building. That's what you're renting. But to provide a lifeguard too, I mean, the person one of your staff has to be there anyway. I understand that, but we're paying for an additional one on Saturday.
Currently, that is what we are doing. And they have offered to pay for that Saturday guard on Saturday, but the expectation would be for me to waive the fees.
They just need to pay. And they can't have no expectations when they rent from you. You the landlord.
And again, we treat this as a facility rental, so I understand that City Council may want to look at the MOU.
Yeah, we do.
But it's a pavilion rental, so that's the same thing of me bringing in front of you our contract for every pavilion rental that we do for our citizens.
It would involve revenue, honey. That's one of your responsibilities. You're the city manager. Okay, that's all I say. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor Gore?
Yeah, so thank you for this presentation. I'm sorry I had to be rescheduled, but I did ask for this because I have concerns in regards to this relationship. It does seem like they're getting over on the city, and it needs to be addressed. And so I understand that from the department standpoint and from your purview, there is some autonomy there, yes, but at the same time we do set policy. And I do think that us spending city resources to fund their extracurricular activities, their business, we're funding their business, is not in our best interest. And we sat here and talked about stormwater fees and increasing those, but yet we're using dollars to pay for lifeguards and et cetera, and we are struggling to get a marquee. Remember last year I had to fight to get you a marquee replaced for $30,000, but yet we have money to do this. And so I thought that we would have the MOU draft by now.
It is in the agenda packet. I have not signed it.
For us to be able to make some decisions.
Okay.
Because I don't think that's in our best interest. And then also there's some other concerns in regards to the point that when I last spoke to you, I asked you about how many youth and residents are from Hopewell, and the fact you said then you still can get the answer. If that's the case, if they're not willing to come forward with that data, why again are we supplementing their efforts?
And again, I like to reiterate that I inherited this, and then again,
I'm
trying to work us through the process.
Correct, but I know you inherited it. That's trying to help you out, right? But at the same time, what I've noticed is that there's a lot of instances here in the city where things have been done for years, and there's been gentlemen's agreements, and there's been understanding that staff and others have just continued to do just because that's how it's always been done. And attempts to try to adjust that has met with some resistance from either staff, council members, or the parties themselves.
Yes, ma'am.
But quite frankly, given what we've been through these last few years, and especially the investment we did with Robert Bob Group, bringing them into the city, at some point in time, you just got to rip the Band-Aid off and just make a decision and move forward. I mean, it's just business, or else we're going to keep being taken advantage of. And then we're going to keep having to raise taxes for paper, but everybody else's stuff. So at the end of the day, I'm not really sure what the action is right now, besides getting a poll to see what council wants to do. But I'm for moving, given the city manager obviously the discretion to negotiate a contract that's in our city's best interest. Obviously, all contracts go to the city attorney for approval, and for it to move to a year. And if they don't agree with the terms, then they don't have to come here.
That is a concern that has been brought forth every time I've negotiated this contract. Because again, as I mentioned before, I'm constantly pushing our agenda for our citizens. It has always been my personal belief, and I mentioned this in my interview, that my first priority is always going to be serving.
You say your priority is what?
I have always been transparent, and my first priority is always going to be to serve the citizens of Hopewell. That is my primary priority. And if I can serve some outside groups, I'm happy to do so, but not at the detriment of our citizens. And the access is something that is conveniently something that we definitely need to ensure for our citizens. It's an asset that obviously not a lot of localities have as an indoor pool.
Right, so the MOU that we have in our packet is with the recommendations that you would like as a director?
No, ma'am. That is the current MOU that has been drafted for this season that has not been signed. We are acting in good faith to kind of work through this season with the anticipation of coming in front of council and maybe getting a directive from you all as to what you would like.
So that's what I was going back to, and I was saying, I was hoping to see an MOU that was more in line with the vision that protects the city that we don't have here. It's the existing one. So specifically, I would like to see an MOU that addresses the concerns from staff for equitable relationship. Equitable in the sense that we're not being taken advantage of, and we're also not discounting the years that they have been here. But again, if those terms can't be reached, then they don't have to stay here. That's just the end of the day. It's just business. It is what it is.
I understand.
So my motion is, I know this may not have action, but we can still take action as a business meeting, is for you to come back at our next regular scheduled meeting with the updated MOU for support.
For this current season or the season that's going to be coming up?
Whatever one you need to do.
Upcoming.
We negotiate the next season in January. So this season is almost over. So I would say the upcoming season.
Whatever one that you need to do.
Yeah, you need to know. You have to negotiate before January, right? If it starts effective in January?
No, they don't. Their season will start in September.
Oh,
So this current one that we're operating on under good faith actually ends in the end of May. And then again, as Dr. Maker had mentioned, we can definitely adjust it. Again, there's no signed agreement.
My motion is this: to do it as soon as possible for next season and current season, since it ends in May. Council agrees with it, they agree with it. They don't, then they don't. But my motion is to take care of the issue at hand which is the current problem that we are facing in expenditures that we're releasing due to this current partnership, if you can call it a partnership. So my motion is for you to come back with a recommended MOU for current season and next season to address the issues. And it's just a recommend for you to come back. It doesn't mean to take action on where you come back. I'm going to ask you to come back with something at the next meeting, and then council can make their determination.
Can I make a substitute motion?
Can we let Dr. Maker say something first? She was trying to say something.
Okay.
I understand the request. I don't know if I would recommend in a mid-season because the actual swim team has to have time to make those adjustments with the parents that are already been paid, that in the expectation that they have some place to practice. All that is in motion. We're well past that.
Well, it doesn't mean that they have to move. There's other terms that can be negotiated besides them moving. That's why I said to figure out what you would like to see and to come back with those options. It doesn't mean they have to pick up and go, but it may mean they have to pay their fair share.
I'd like to make a substitute motion. Just to negotiate for the next contract. I agree with Dr. Manker, not to make any adjustments because you made a commitment to the end of May. After that, negotiate in good faith to protect the citizens' interests for next contract time.
I can do a friendly amendment. I said it's up to
Anybody
council.
can second that?
I said I can make a friendly amendment. You
Okay,
gotta do
very
all
good.
that.
I'll take a friendly amendment.
It says up to council.
I will preface this to say that what I would recommend will not go over well.
That's fine.
All right, so you got your friendly amendment. Anybody second it? You did, you agree?
I said I could change my motion, so that means that you're technically
Yeah,
by default
I second
seconding
your
it.
motion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Just for the next year, not this year.
Next agenda.
Next, yeah, next negotiation period.
For the next swim season,
Yes,
is what you're
sir.
saying.
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Joyner?
Yeah, I wanted to say, I'd like to see the numbers. I mean, before we do anything, you're talking about rentals of lanes and that kind of thing. I want to see an operational summary and what the numbers look like. I mean, is it profitable?
So, as I mentioned before, we have what we bring in per season.
I see the charts there.
And what we net.
Yeah, but I just really like to take a look at, and I also have a question. Doesn't the pool need a major capital investment? I mean, last year you couldn't even, the pool was down for months and months. And where does RVA Swim play into any of this, or Swim RVA, whatever? I mean,
is that them?
That particular partnership, where do we stand with that?
Swim RVA is a great partner. They work with us to do the second grade, learn to swim program. And they provide a guard when we're short so that we can stay open not only for our citizens, but also stay open at no cost to us. They're phenomenal partners, right?
And so our little citizens that we serve.
Correct. Yeah, we serve all three of our elementary schools, and then of course we've expanded that to take care of some of the Prince George's. Exactly.
Well.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. So we have actually grown that program. We do charge any agency outside the city of Hopewell. So if it's our Hopewell school system, I don't charge them for lane rental because they're our kids. But if they do Prince George and Chesterfield, then they do charge that. With the exception is if they had to provide us a guard in order to facilitate that. Because the guard rate and my lane rental rate for the hour, it equals out. So they can pay me my rental rate, and I'm going to turn around and have to pay them for their services of that lifeguard. Yeah. So it's easier just to null and void that particular.
So this is a net loss. This arrangement with Nova is a net loss. So we're going to.
I wouldn't say it's a complete net loss, but it is very, very close. Yes, especially with all the increases. So essentially, in the 9 months that they're operating. Just off the top of my head, I have them at about $35,685 a season. That's in electrical, water, our ARC, which is our CO2 to kind of get the
costs.
Correct, and gas for that facility. And what I mentioned earlier to you was we typically bring in The last season was 23,000 after we have already paid the legacy guard.
Okay, well,
So
then
yes,
so you're in net loss then?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, well, I mean, clearly something has to be done.
That's what I'm saying.
but I also can't raise the
I mean, I'd
rate
just like
on
to see
them
those
dramatically because
those
it just
hard
they wouldn't
numbers.
be able to afford it.
Can't change it.
So right.
But those,
So
those children too.
But are they our kids?
All right.
They're not our kids. You made a contract.
I cannot speak to that. I don't have the statistics in order to
That's
answer
what I'm
that
saying.
correctly.
Because you have to ask the question, why are they, I mean, there's more to this.
Are you pushing away, are people coming in and they can't use the pool?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yes, because they are there during the prime time when families are coming out, utilizing it. And when I have only 1 to 2 lanes, if I get 2 families of 3 people apiece, it's very tight in that 1 lane. Or 2 lanes, depending on what it is. And of course, we cannot facilitate any Learn to Swim programs on our own to bring in revenue for the city because of the time frames.
Well, I guess the meeting's been adjourned.
All right, well, you guys have a wonderful night. That's what's fine, isn't it? It cuts off automatically.
Meeting adjourned, time passed.
Oh, Lord. Y'all,
I didn't have to hit it.
you don't have to.